Hi everyone, it's Katrina from the Alluring Bead Boutique, and today I'm going to do a video tutorial for you guys using the products, some of the products that I got from BB Craft. So the main goal was to find a project to use to make using these beautiful little flower cut beads that I showed you guys in the introductory unboxing video. And so what you get, these are 6mm flower cut beads, and they're very pretty. I talked about in the other video about what good quality they are, how the end here is nice and smooth and rounded, doesn't have any jagged broken edges, as you can see. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble focusing there. They come in a pack of 30, and this particular one here is the Morning Glory mix, and you get 30 beads in the pack. With this particular pack I wound up actually getting 32, and you get this little assortment of colors. I'm going to be using some of the seed beads also that I've got another review coming out for soon in a product video as well. These are the Panda Hall Elite 120 seed beads, and for this project I'll be using these beautiful yellow AB, this darker like an emerald AB, and then I'm also going to use this lime or peridot AB. And those are the products that I'm using from BB Craft. I'll also be using a few of these opaque chocolate brown Delica beads that I got at Hobby Lobby. We'll be using some 18 or 16 gauge copper wire, and then we'll also be using some 26 gauge copper wire. You'll need your flush cutters. You probably will want to have on hand a pair of fine-tipped chain nose pliers. You're also going to need some round nose pliers to form these little loops here on your two components. You can also use these type of pliers here. And you may also want to have some nylon tipped flat nose pliers for straightening out your weaving wire. Okay, so let me get my desk ready here, and I'll show you guys first thing we're going to do is make these little components here. So for my example, I'm going to be using this brass 18 gauge wire. For the copper ones that I'm actually using in the video, I used a 16 gauge. You're going to start by taking your flush cutters, and you're going to cut your working end of your wire till you have a nice flush cut. If you don't get it all the way flush, you can take a nail file or a jewelry file, and you can just file it off till it's nice and flat and smooth. But you want to start with a flush cut on that end. Then we are going to measure a 4-inch piece. So for you, you'll be making 2 of these. I'm just going to be making 1 for right now. So I got my ruler out, and I'm going to take the flush end of my wire, and I'm going to put it here facing my working wire. And then I'm just going to make a nice flush cut on this side. So now I have a nice little 4-inch piece of wire with 2 flush cut ends. You would just simply cut your new end flush, measure again, and snip 1 more wire. So once you have your ends the way you want them, and take your nylon jaw pliers and straighten out your wire as much as you can. Get a nice looking straight wire. Now, in my other videos about making simple loops, I showed you guys how to mark your pliers at places that will make different size loops. For this project, I'm going to be using the one closest to the tip of my pliers right there. I'm going to grab my wire so that I can't feel any of it poking out between the two heads of my plier here. And I'm just going to roll this wire back, just like this, until it comes around and it touches the base wire. So I got a little bit more to go. It's a little hard to do on camera, so I'm just going to kind of do it like that. So there's my first loop. Now, when I come around to do my loop on the other end, I want to face the loop I've already made towards myself, like this. Actually, no, I don't. I want to face it away from myself because I roll away from my own self. So basically, I'm going to face that previous loop facing down. I'm going to come up here and grab my wire at the same place on my pliers as I did for the first one, and then I'm just going to roll that one down until I can feel it touch the base wire. And if you need to straighten it a little bit once you get it done, that's okay too. But you want both of your loops on the same side of the wire, just like that. So now we need to form our little shape down here at the bottom, our little oval bend. And to do that, I'm just going to be using, for my mandrel, a bottle of, it's just patina. It's a little small bottle that I got at Hobby Lobby. Can't even think of the name of it. It says Ranger or something right there at the top. Anyhow, this is what I used to make these ones, so I already know that it worked out really good. If you want to be precise, if I take out my little gauge here and measure it, it's a 25mm circle. Something a little bit larger like this, maybe a nail polish bottle, anything like that that's firm and round. That's all you really need. So now I want to form my loop. So I've got to kind of eyeball this to the center. It doesn't have to be perfect because you can make adjustments with your wire later. But you want to try to lay that as close to the center as you can, and you're going to just start rolling your two wires up around your little whatever you're using for your mandrel. I've got a little bit of a bend here on this wire. It wasn't quite the way I wanted it, so I'm going to try to fix it around. But you want to try to, as you're working, you want to try to make sure an eyeball and see if your ends are going to come up close to each other. Now is the time to wiggle it around just a little bit as you're bending it to make sure that they come around and they're pretty close together at the same height here, like this. And then you're just going to really form it. Once you have it pretty close with, eyeballing it, and you want to really form this loop. Mash a little bit harder around your mandrel or little bottle, whatever you're using, until what you come out with is a cute little shape, just like that. And then if you want it closer, you can just gently start working the two ends closer together, like that. And there we have one of our little shapes made. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to make two. And you can see, just by looking, that I measured my wires the same way, and I used the same mandrel to make my shape. Okay, so next thing you're going to want to do is cut yourself a nice long piece of your 26 gauge copper wire. And this is going to be our weaving wire. We will be using several different lengths throughout the project, but I strongly suggest that you start with a piece that's at least a good, probably 10 inches long to get started. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our weaving wire and we're going to get ourselves a start inside the bottom part of one of our loops, towards the inside of our frame. We are going to then, let me just flip it over on the back, then we're going to work our way creating these little scallops along the edge here until we come down and make this third scallop. Then we're going to wrap a few times and we're going to come up and start our first flower. So that is going to be the first length of wire that we use. So I'm pretty terrible at wire wrapping, so you guys just bear with me, but I'm not the world's greatest at it, so I don't practice it enough to get really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this wire across the top of my frame, just like this. And I'm going to hold this part with my fingers like this, and I'm going to wrap with this little piece. And I'm going to do 3 wraps around this little tiny loop here at the top. And using the chain nose pliers really helps with this, because basically I hate wasting wire, and so what I'm going to do is I always give myself a little bit of a tail, and I begin my wraps with the tail because it's just the way I do things. So I'm going to wrap 3. There's 2 of them, and as you work them, push them close together. One more to do. I'm going to bring it around here, poke it through the hole, just like that. Grab it from behind and pull it snug. And then once you've made your 3rd wrap, bring it around the top like this, and bring it nice and firm, just like that. Scoot your little wraps together. Then take your flush cutters and snip that tail away. Put the flat flush side of your cutters facing the project. So I'm going to just go ahead and snip that piece off. Let it drop. You can tuck your ends now, mash them down nice and flat with your chain nose pliers, or you can wait till you're closer towards the end of the project. So my weaving wire is a little bit like a hard wire. It's very springy. So as I held this wire in place with my finger, you can see how I got myself formed a little natural curve right there in the wire. And whenever you can, you want to work with the natural flow of the wire. And that's one thing I've learned. So here I am. I'm going to bring this little loop down and around just like that and position it across the wire like that, the base wire like that. Then I'm just going to wrap 3 times with the long end of my wire. Sorry guys, I'm having trouble with my camera being in the wrong place. Okay, so then I'm just going to wrap just like this. So I have 3 wraps, and this is what I have. So I'm going to come around, and I want the wire back on top like this. You can see that I still have that nice natural curve going the same direction. Now I can scoot this up and play around with it and get it into the exact position I want, just like that. But now I've got this other little curve going on, so I'm just going to use that to my advantage, and I'm going to make myself another little scalp. I want this one's relatively smaller, like that. Once I get it where I want it, I'm going to take my base wire under, or excuse me, my weaving wire under and over. I'm going to go under and over. And then I got to go one more. So there we go. And I come back up over, because I want to be facing the top of my little frame like that. So now we're in a position to where we can just make a little tiny one. Here would be a good time for me to scoot this one up a little bit, because I want to try to get my flower to come out in the same place as it did on this one. And I've got a tiny little scallop here that I'm working with now, so I'm just going to hold it with my fingers, and I'm going to wrap around 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to come up behind again and be facing on the top of my work, just like that. So take a look at what I have here. That's my start. So now I'm ready to do one of my flowers. So once again, I'm working with the curve on this wire. Let me slide my beads out of the way. So you can see I've taken, if your wire isn't curving the way you want it to, just take your finger like this and curve, form a little slight curve. Then you're going to pick up your beads, which I picked up 4 of my 11 Odelicas, or excuse me, 3 of my 11 Odelicas, 4 of my dark green beads, 3 peridots, a flower cup, and then these 3 yellows right there. So there's what I have for my first little flower. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap right over top of these 3 wraps from coming down off of my first scallop. So I'm on the front of the frame. I'm just going to bring it over, and I want to wrap from bottom to top. So I'm going to start at the bottom of those 3 wraps already on my frame, and I'm going to wrap right over them. 1, come around, 2, come around, and then 1 more, 3. And then come around, come to the back, pull nice and snug. Don't pull too hard, just pull snug. You don't want to pull everything out of shape. Then I'm going to come over here, flip it over, and take my snippers on the flush side down towards the work, and cut that little wire right off. So there we have that side done. And they're not supposed to be exactly perfect, because it's a very organic project. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing that we did on this side, and we're going to do it on this side. So to make it easy, the easiest way to do that would be to flip it. If you do flip it, you're going to alternate and work your scallops on the back side. I'm not going to flip it. I'm going to leave it this way, just because it helps me to remember what I'm doing. So just quickly again, to start, I'm running my wire through the loop on the left, but my wire is on top of the project. I'm going to hold it with my finger just like that, and I'm going to wrap with this smaller wire. I'm going to wrap upwards. So there's one, and I'm not going to make you guys painfully watch me do all these, but I'm going to do 3 wraps using the tail end and my chain nose pliers. I'm going to make sure that my wraps don't overlap as I work, and then I'm going to cut my tail off, and we'll be ready to start. So there's 2. If you see that your wire is going to overlap, before you pull it tight, you want to move it and get it into the right position, and then you can pull it tight like that. So once again, I'm working with the curve of the wire, the natural curve of my weaving wire. I've got my first scallop positioned, so I'm just going to wrap my 3 wraps. And I want to be on the front again when I finish that last wrap. So here I am on the front. See how I still have that nice natural curve to the wire? So now I'm going to make my second little scallop and start wrapping my 3 wraps here. And then I'm going to come to the center and top one more time, like so. Oh, I got my scallop a little bit messed up. So here's a good tip for you. If you screw your scallop up, grab your chain nose pliers and see if you can fix it. Like that. You can round it using both pliers put together and round your shape a little bit. You can spread the 2 woven sections a little. It's really easy to salvage a mess up on this wire. If you can't get it salvaged, cut it off and start over, because this 26 gauge wire is really cheap and inexpensive, and it's no sense in getting yourself too frustrated. Alright, so now what I got to do is I need to come down and make a tiny scallop. So I'm going to do my wire like this with my finger and get myself a nice little curve. I'm going to come in, it's got to be really small so I don't run out of room. So I'm going to hold my wire again, and I'm going to try to get around here and wrap. I want to do 3 wraps. And take a look at what I'm doing. And it doesn't have to be identical, so just try not to stress out over perfection. This is a real organic project. So now here I am on the top again. So I'm going to bring that wire straight up like that. So where my second flower is going to go is, guess what? Right in here, like that. I'm going to pick up the exact same number of beads and the exact color that I did for this flower on this side. So I've got my little beads on, and I'm going to bring my flower around. I'm going to start at the bottom of those 3 wraps there, and I'm going to wrap 3 times. So I want you to take your time. You really want to get this part as close to right as you can. It might be a little bit difficult to work with. You may need to reposition the bottom of your flower down a little bit, like I'm having to do with this one. But go ahead and get your next flower on and do your 3 wraps over top of those 3 original wraps laying on your base wire. And once you have those wraps done, you want to bring this wire down really close, but you don't want to bring it so close that you accidentally cut through something else with when you're trimming it off. So just make sure that you're getting your current wrapping wire into your flush cutters and snip the end, just like that. And you want to go ahead and take your chain nose pliers and bring that around to a full wrap if you need to, just like I'm doing with my pliers right here. Try not to mess up your scallop at the same time. So there's where we are so far. And if you need to, you can spread your little top part out here just a little bit, so we can get down here and finish our third flower. And then I'll show you 2 different ways you can end the top. Alright, to do this last flower, what I'm going to do is I've got this probably about a 7 or 8 inch piece of wire, and that's going to be enough for part of the step. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and wrap this thread on. I'm not going to leave a whole lot of tail, just enough for me to hold on to. I'm going to wrap this particular wire on. I don't want my wires to overlap, and I'm going to do a small coil. I'm going to bring those all nice and tight together. I'm going to bring that one down around to the back like that. So I have a nice tight little coil right here. And I'm going to figure out where I want my stem to go up. And so it's looking pretty good to be about right there. Now you see that my wire is coming around the top, just like we've been doing. We've been working from the top the whole time of our project. And I know I'm on top because my scallops are on the top of the base wire. I'm going to lay that down for a second. So I went ahead and dealt with my other end. I made my coil nice and tight, got rid of my excess, and then I used my chain nose pliers to flatten that piece straight down. Now I'm going to move it back over because I started here on the right, and my flower is going to curve to the left. You see I got the natural flow of my wire going to the left, and on the mate my big flower curved to the right, so I want this one curving to the left anyhow. And if it's not curving for you naturally, just take your finger, your thumb I mean, and just start forming a gentle curve in the wire just like that. And where we're going to wrap this one once we get our beads on is going to be here at the top end, right in there. So for this flower, what I did was I picked up 4 delicas, 5 of my green, 3 peridot, my green flower cup, and then about 4 yellow ones there at the top. So here's my beads on. I've got my 4 delicas, 5 of my dark green AB beads, then I've got 3 peridots, my flower cup, and 4 yellow ones at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this into position where I want it. I'm just going to try to hold it with my finger. And I'm going to wrap, but I want to make my wrap as close to the top of this first scallop as I can get it, because I really don't want to mess my scallop up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around back like this, back like this, then one more time. So I have my 3 wraps. I'm going to shape things up just like this. I'm going to bring that wire all the way around to the back. I'm going to flip it over and get my flush cutters. I'm going to come in here and trim my wire. And I'm going to use my flush cutters or my chain nose pliers just to push my wire down into place, so I don't have any sharp edges that could potentially hurt somebody. And there's my little flower done. We're still not finished. What we're going to do next is really easy. We are going to take our little piece of wire, we're going to wrap in right here, and we're going to just simply make a coil on this side of our middle stem. And this little piece of wire right here is going to be pretty much long enough to do it. So I'm just going to take that piece, and I'm going to bend it around like that. And then I'm going to wrap through between my flowers. I'm going to have to be really careful. And I'm just going to pull it through and make myself some coils all the way around till I reach the second stem right there. I'm going to pay attention, make sure I tighten my coils up, and I'm going to make sure I don't overlap any of my coils. So now I've finished making a little coil on the up in between the stem here, middle one, and the one on the left. I've got this wire pulled nice and taut to the back. This wire here is also pulled nice and taut to the back. So all I have to do is take my flush cutters and come in and trim my ends, and then use my chain nose pliers to tuck any sharp ends in. Just get rid of my excess on both pieces, and then I'll take my chain nose pliers and make sure that my ends are rolled down in, just like that. Sometimes I use my Optivisor thing that I've got on Amazon. I'll put a link to this, guys, to this particular visor for you guys in the blog post regarding these earrings. It saves my life when I'm working on projects like these, because I have a real hard time seeing. And so I'm just going to come in here and make sure I don't have any sharp edges poking up. I can see so much better with this on my head. And then if I need to, I can push everything nice and shapely. I want this to be the front of my earring, because here's my scallops. And so we've gotten this far right here, guys. So the next part I'm going to show you guys is how I made this cute little thing here. You do not have to do that part. You can use a series of 3 jump rings, and I'll show you how to do that too. So if you were going to use jump rings to finish this project, what I've got here is I've got 2 smaller ones that are probably 4mm on the outside diameter, and then I have a 6. So what I would do is I would be opening up one of my 4s and put it through right here on one loop, then close it up. I would put one on the other side as well, and then I would take my bigger jump ring and I would feed it through the 2 smaller ones. And I'm having trouble, but there we go. So you have to figure it would look like this, so there would be the other small jump ring on that side. That way when you attach your ear wire to the 6mm one in the middle, the earring stays facing the correct way. But this is how it looks on this one, where I did a little wire wrapped loop between the 2 loops here. And I'll show you guys how to do that. So to do this part, I once again will advise you to work with the natural curve of this wire. So I've got the front of my earring facing up. I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to come through from top to bottom just like this. Then I'm going to take it and bend my bends around. And I am going to wrap with this tail wire. I'm going to take this and go through that hoop just 3 times, working back towards the outer edge of the earring. And it's very painstaking to do on camera, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do it and I'll come right back. But just make 3 wraps, just like we did at the very beginning of the videos when we were tying our wire on. So we're just tying on. So I finished my 3 wraps. My wire was coming off with a curve like this, to this direction. So I just worked gently and brought my wire around and made this tiny little loop in the front, just like that. So now that I've got that formed, you can use your round nose pliers and just form the loop, or anything that you want to make a small loop there. I just use my fingers, no big deal. I like the organic look on this. So now I'm just going to grab that loop with these chain nose pliers, as close to that bend as I can get it. And my wire is going across the top, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap a couple of times, just like this, and I want my wire back on the left side, going towards the left. Then I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers and bring that loop around just a little bit, shape it if I need to, just like that. Now I have this cute little loop here sitting in the center. So all I have to do now is I have to take this wire and I need to come through the loop on the opposite side. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, and as I pull, I'm going to pull really gently, because I don't want to really make a huge mess of this. So I'm going to get these 2, my wire where I want it, and I'm going to just grab all this with my thumb and just try to hold everything into position while I get this wire wrapped around at least once. So I'm coming around and I'm going to wrap 3 wraps on this side, just like that. Before you continue on, position everything the way that you want it. You can see I don't have that wrap very tight, so I need to tighten it up a little with my pliers. I'm going to wrap a couple more. Making sure my coils don't overlap. I'm going to push everything back towards this side here. And now I am going to come through one more time, just like that. Pull that in. And I'm going to come back across the back, just like this. I am going to bring my wire into a little curve. Let me make myself that little curve shape, just like that. And I'm going to bring it up next to my coils here on my center loop. And then I'm just going to take this wire and I'm going to wrap it around there. Hold it with my chain nose pliers if I need to, so I can make it nice and neat looking. And I'm just going to wrap a couple of loops around. Not too much. I don't want a bunch of gumpy wire piled up right there. Just like this. I am going to see this is the front of my work because there's my scallops on the top. So I'm going to bring it around to the back. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to snip off the excess with the flush side of my wire cutters, just like that. And there I have this second earring created, just like my first one. I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and open up my earring finding. And I just happen to have these bare copper findings from, probably I got at Walmart. I want my scallops on the front, just like that. Close the earring wire. And so this is what we have. And there's my two little adorable little spring garden wire wrapped earrings with the Morning Glory flower cut beads that I got from BB Craft. And also I used three different colors of the 12-0 sea beads that I got from them as well. If you need to, you can finagle and wiggle your work just a little bit and shape everything the way that you want it. Be gentle so that you don't over bend anything while you're working on it. If you need to reshape one of these little sections here, see how that's kind of got a point on that scallop? You can gently use your fine tip chain nose pliers to make some small adjustments. Alright guys, so that is the tutorial. I did want to just say quickly before I go, I just really love those flower cut beads that I got from BB Craft. They're really quality. Look how beautiful they look. So that was basically, I decided not to do a separate product review on them because really how much can you say about them? The trick to it was to see how they look in a project and how they work. And they work great. Alright folks, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the, or check out my other product reviews I did on my BB Craft items that I got from them. Head over to the website and read up on all my latest blog posts. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Have a beautiful day, and thanks for watching.